Welcome. Hi, my name is Sean Wilson, and I am the Product Marketing Manager for Deployment and IT Pro. Joined with me today in our weekly broadcast is...
I'm Jamie Stark. I look after Cloud PBX voice topics for Skype for Business and the Microsoft marketing organization. Thanks for joining us. And so we're here to talk about some new things that are coming to Cloud PBX.
Yes, your favorite topic of all things. But before we do that, I'm going to do the one thing that we have to do. We have a Q&A manager as well. Don't forget about the Bing Pulse. That information is actually crucial to know that we're hitting you with the right information. We've also got Paul in the background who's actually feeding us some of the questions so that we know that we're hitting those topics. So as we go forward, make sure that we're incorporating those. But I think that it's actually kind of an interesting precipice for us to be on to really talk about some of these new features, because this really is now kind of the next generation of what we're bringing into Cloud PBX, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. So one of the core things that we talk about with Cloud PBX is the idea that over time we're to be adding in more and more features and more capabilities to this suite of functionality that's available within Office 365. And so for a long time we've been talking about how new capabilities can come into the service, and we've been doing that. So we've brought in the call quality SLA. We've talked about that in the past. We've brought in Cloud Connector Edition and talked about how that hooks up with Cloud PBX. There's some great reporting enhancements. So just almost every month, there's new capabilities that come to the cloud, that come to Office 365 and Skype for Business, and come to Cloud PBX. But this set of functionality, specifically auto attendance and call queues, has been one topic that we've been talking about and that the customers have been asking us about since the beginning, since we first announced Cloud PBX.
So let's take just a couple minutes, and because we've got a wide variety of audience, is really kind of let's streamline and talk about what Cloud PBX really is, right? Like the best part is I talked to Jamie. He knows all about voice. His handle on Twitter is @NoMorePhones. He's been very deep in the voice interoperability space for a long time. Me, on the other hand, video interop, great. Voice, not so much. Explain to me a little bit about what actually we put into the cloud and what it means to have Cloud PBX.
Right. So really, Cloud PBX is very simply defined as features and capabilities for end users to be able to make calls and manage their calls and do all their call functionality, and then for IT pros to be able to operate, administer, and manage that call functionality through Office 365. So it's really kind of features for two groups of folks within an organization. Obviously, your end users being able to send and receive calls with all the different types of clients and phones and workstations and everything else. And then for IT to be able to provision phone numbers, to be able to set policy, to be able to do all the things necessary to manage that phone capability for the end users.
So let me see if I've kind of got this from a simpler standpoint. So Call PBX gives users the ability to
Cloud PBX.
What did I call it?
Call.
Oh, I meant Cloud PBX.
Of course you did. No worries.
So Cloud PBX gives in Office 365 gives users the ability to do the functions that they know of from a traditional phone, of like transfer and hold, and et cetera, right?
It does. And in addition to that, there's actually even more sophisticated call routing functions that are available to end users as well. So for example, if our manager wanted to have us operate the phone for him, thankfully he hasn't decided to go down this path, but he could, and he could set us up as a delegate, for example, and allow us to send and receive calls on his behalf. In addition, we could also set up a way for us to, when one of us gets a call, if we don't answer the call in a certain amount of time, then that call can be passed along to our teammate, and we call that team calling. And so the idea is that there are these call routing functions that are available specifically to end users to be able to manage their phone calls, and we have those are available today in Cloud PBX.
So so that's in Cloud PBX, but then there's also when you think of traditional PBXs, they used to have like this, rubric with like 380 possible features that were built on business processes in the late 70s, early 80s, right? And so with the modernization, we still have some of those core like PBX centric features and functions, which I think is what we're really going to talk a little bit about today.
That's
right?
absolutely right. And so what we're talking about today is, instead of call handling and call management that's focused around the end user and that's managed by the end user, this is call handling and call management capabilities that can be managed on the back end, on the service side. We've had this capability first in Office Communication Server, and then in Link Server, and finally Skype for Business Server.
Yeah.
We've had this call management facility in the server for quite a while, and now we're bringing that capability into Cloud PBX with auto attendants and call queues.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, should we dive a little bit into that?
Yeah.
Maybe talk a little about, so instead of seeing our beautiful face, we're going to walk through a little bit of two things really to set the stage. We're going to talk a little bit about what to expect from a feature and release and so on, and then we get to show the demo. Right?
That's absolutely right. And so that's kind of, let's go ahead and flip over to the slides, and auto attendants and call queues. Absolutely new Cloud PBX features that are coming to Skype for Business and Office 365. The reason that we're coming to you today is that we're now have the ability to go and show this. It's still very, very early, but we're actually using these capabilities today in Microsoft. It's one of the programs that we call colloquially dog food. For those of you that have been around Microsoft for a little bit, you'll be familiar with this concept, but the idea is that we bring very early code and we run it here at Microsoft to make sure that it's operating well before it goes out to our initial set of customers. And so that's how we're able to start talking about it here with you today. So Cloud PBX, first, we're going to start talking about auto attendant. The first thing to be aware of is that auto attendant really is a set of capabilities that are around inbound call handling. And so the idea is that I need to have a facility within Office 365 that can answer the call and that can do what's generally in the industry called call treatment. So I answer the call and I start playing some prompts and I start trying to figure out what's the intent of the caller.
Okay. So this would be something where I'm prompted and it would say, please dial who to reach Foo.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
That use of an auto attendant we call an organizational auto attendant. So the organizational auto attendant providing the ability to route calls to end users in Office 365. So when somebody dials into your 1-800-CONTOSO type of number, that they can dial somebody by name or they can speak somebody's name and they can get routed to that person.
Oh, just like when somebody would call here at Microsoft, they called the main 80-882-8080, and then they say, hey, I want to be able to speak to so-and-so, it would route it to me.
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
So you can see here on the slide a little bit of a view of what that configuration looks like. We're going to actually show it. I've got my workstation set up. We'll show that here in a little bit. From a capability from what we're planning for the release is really tremendous. First is that we're designing this to be global because Cloud PBX is global. Yeah. Cloud PBX is available all around the world. And so similarly, we want to be able to have our auto attendant capabilities to be able to be used all around the world. So by default, there's 27 languages that you can configure for text to speech, meaning I can have, I can type in prompts without having them recorded. I can type them in and then they can be spoken back automatically in 27 different languages.
So that's what TTS means.
Exactly.
I thought it was touch tone. So for those of you out there that are like me, TTS is text to speech. Those like Jamie, you understood what he was talking about.
And then for being able to accept input from callers, we can either use touch tone or DTMF, or at release, we'll also have speech recognition capabilities. And for the speech recognition, we have 12 different languages that we'll be coming out with. That's impressive. I know. So I love the fact that straight out of the gate, we're going to be really designing this from a global perspective. It's really outstanding.
That's really cool. I'm reading on there though that you can actually set business hours and after hours as well, by the tenant admin. I mean, I think that's huge for all sizes of businesses, right? You've got big businesses, they're complex, but if you think about it for those that might want to be using Cloud PBX in a smaller organization or even a smaller office, right? They have that capability to set those office hours, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. All of this is configurable by the tenant administrator from within their Office 365 tenant admin console. And then, of course, all the things that we talk about here when we say that it's within the tenant admin console. Of course, we're also offering PowerShell as a configuration surface to be able to use as well. So all the things that we show and that we talk about that are within the web console can be scripted in the back end in addition.
Excellent. One of the things I noticed is that says Anchorage office. Does this mean that I can then set up this auto attendant based on site?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
I can have multiple auto attendants. So
Yep.
if I've got 5 offices, I can actually configure it for those 5 separate locations. I don't have to have one for everything in routing.
That's right. That's right. You can set up as many of these as you need. There may be some scale things that we look into as we get closer to release, but there's no extra licensing, or there's no requirements from that perspective of kind of limiting the number of auto attendants that you can have operating within Cloud PBX. And it is, again, included here with Cloud PBX, meaning there's no extra license that's required. When this comes into general availability, it's just going to show up in your tenant admin console. Of course, we'll do some notifications. We'll let everybody know that it's coming, and update documentation so folks know how to use it and that sort of thing. But the other key thing to note is that everything with Cloud PBX operates independent of the way that you use Cloud PBX to connect out to the public switch phone network.
Okay.
And we've talked about this in the past, but there are 2 different options. One of those options is to use the PSTN calling service for Microsoft,
Which now is in US and UK.
That's right. That's right. Oh, don't forget Puerto Rico.
Oh, Puerto Rico.
US, UK, Puerto Rico, and growing to additional countries over time. We'll let you know when that happens.
Yep.
Those go into preview. Or you can use your existing phone circuits with software operating on premises. But the whole concept of Cloud PBX is that it's independent of the way that you're connecting out to the public switch phone network. And so whether you're using a hybrid topology to connect out to the PSTN, or Cloud Connector Edition, or you're using Microsoft's PSTN calling service, it's going to operate the exact same way, which is really fantastic.
Actually, that's a great intro. We got a question that maybe ties directly to this.
Oh,
it says,
we already get
will
questions.
Org AA transfer to on-prem SfB users too, or do we need to rely on Exchange Online auto attendant for that?
It will transfer to on-premises users as well. So the whole concept is that we want to be able to facilitate customers' migrations into the cloud. And so this is
awesome,
right? And so what you can do is you can configure the organizational auto attendant within Office 365, have that up and running, regardless of where your users are located. If those users are operating on premises, it will transfer calls to the users running on-prem. If the users are homed in the cloud, obviously it'll transfer to those users in the cloud. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have this be operating from the cloud, but be able to have access to users and topologies, regardless of whether you're all online or whether you're hybrid. Now, just to be clear, you don't have to deploy anything on premises for this to work. But if you do have that topology, it's supported.
That is, so basically, we're not bifurcating our two.
Exactly.
So
yes.
That in my mind, I think is one of the key elements for where we're thinking about design. And we'll talk a little bit about release in a little bit, why we choose what we choose and how we choose to do it. You'll hear a common theme going forward. But I think, do you want to move to the next topic?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
I think this is key.
Okay. So we talked about the auto attendant, and the auto attendant is the ability to, first kind of generally, I'm doing call treatment. I'm playing a prompt. I'm getting a reply from the user. We have that specifically also around organizational call routing. So if I want to get to Sean Wilson, then I call up the number, I ask for Sean Wilson, I punch in his name in DTMF and Touchstone, and I get transferred. But then from that point forward, in a lot of cases, you want to be able to then manage those calls that are coming in, and that's where the call queuing capability comes to play.
So we're calling it call queuing. It's also been known as
hunt groups. So the words that we're using within the Office 365 administration console is call queues because that's actually what it is.
Yeah.
Hunt group is this anachronism from a long time ago, from the 40 years ago of telephony that you were referring to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so let's break it down to, before we kind of get into the details, give me a simple scenario of when someone would want to use a hunt group.
Absolutely. So you have your organizational auto attendant, somebody calls up, they know that they want to get to a particular function within your company, but they don't know who within your company is specifically responsible for that. So maybe they're gonna call up and they're gonna say, I want to talk to support, or I want to talk to sales, or I want to talk to HR.
Okay.
Then what you can do is you can transfer the call to a hunt group or a call queue that's responsible for that particular division within the organization.
Wow.
And then you have folks who subscribe to that hunt group or that call queue to be able to receive calls that come inbound from that queue.
So like when I call in and I call a hotel and I want to get my bill from accounting, I just ask for accounting and then it actually takes me to the accounting.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't know that Jill is the person who's responsible for the accounts.
And they don't want me to know Jill.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Stop bothering Jill, Sean. And so a lot of times we think about these features, excuse me, of auto attendant and call queues in combination. And that's why we're really designing them in concert, even though they are two separate sets of functionality. We're bringing them to preview at the same time, and we'll be releasing them at the same time.
So one of the things that came in from Paul, and I want to make sure that I keep all of you apprised. We will talk about timing in just a couple minutes, but we really want to get through this. So we'll talk about timing in just a couple minutes, but we want to make sure that we really address these two pieces because they are fundamentally the top used features from the PBX side of the house.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from all of you on Twitter and on Yammer and on the new Office 365 network it has been Cloud PBX is great. We really appreciate all the end user capabilities, but boy, we really need to have that essentially front door to our business. And then we need to be able to offer the ability for folks to, if we do get a lot of calls, to have them queued up and to have them routed appropriately within our business. And that's where the call queuing capability comes in. So obviously we want to be able to have a variety of queues operating here. You can have branding specifically for your organization. So custom greetings, custom music on hold, you can upload into the service. Yeah, absolutely.
That seems like I'm getting back to full feature functionality in the cloud for these things, rather than, you'll see some providers out there, they can provide some of this, but they don't really think of it from actually delivering it as an enterprise service, right?
Exactly. And again, from the very beginning, we think about this globally. We think about this being able to work with all different sizes of business and to be able to have the flexibility needed for even some fairly sophisticated call routing operations. And then of course, the call queue capability, it operates the same way with respect to Cloud PBX. So it will work with your hybrid topologies. It will route to users who are homed on premises or homed in Office 365.
Excellent. Well, I do know that we've got a lot of questions that are coming in, and I think we're going to actually address those at the end.
Okay.
If we start talking about them now, we will literally be in the 50-minute range.
Well, I'd actually love to be able to show it just real quick. I know we had a couple screenshots there, but if we could switch over.
Are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. If we could switch over to my workstation. So this is our humble demo tenant that we have set up. And it is now set up for the call routing capability. You can see that's a new tab that I've got on the left here. And I've got tabs for auto attendants and call queues. I have one set up here for our Portland office. And so maybe we need to set up we're opening up a new office and we need to set up a new auto attendant to be able to support that. So when I click on add new, what it does is it's bringing up within the Office 365 admin console all the capabilities that are necessary to be able to configure this functionality. And I wonder if it's taking a little bit of time because it's timed out on my tenant. let's see. I may need to stop and log back in here in a second.
Oh, no,
there it goes. It was just tired. But one of the things that it comes up here is that it comes straight away. There are no available service numbers. Please acquire a new number from the phone numbers page. So we have this now concept of a service number that is designed to be able to handle high volumes of calls coming into the system, and the system knows I need a service number.
So rather than like a traditional DID where you and I would get, 5 to 8 calls a day, maybe if we took a high volume of inbound calls, but we don't because we literally want video in every meeting. Right? So, but with that, you would actually, it's a different type of number that actually can handle the volumes. Right?
Exactly. In the back end, we configure this number differently. This is actually a set of capability that's available today for configuring new dial-in numbers for conferencing. We're also using the same functionality to configure new service numbers for auto attendance and call queues. So I'm going to go here and click on to create a new service number because I don't have a service number available here within this tenant. And so what it's going to do is you're going to come into the add new service numbers page. This is the same thing that you could see if you wanted to set up a new service number for your calling. So let's see, actually, let me zoom out a little bit. Oh, so let's do in the United States. Let's see, where do we want to have our new office? I think it's summer.
Florida.
We should have our new office in Honolulu.
Oh, okay, excellent.
So let's get two new service numbers. We bring those in, and again, this is the same type of setup you would use if you wanted to have a new dial-in conferencing number as well in Honolulu. So I'm going to go ahead and acquire those numbers, and then once I've done that, just like I'm acquiring user numbers for calling, just like I would be acquiring new numbers for a conference bridge, I have the same set of capability for call routing. Now, if I'm hybrid, I have those numbers already configured in the back end. Obviously, those are coming from my carrier. But now that I've created those numbers, now you can see that I've got those set up and ready to go in my tenant. Let me just do one thing to make this a little bit more readable for folks. We're going to zoom that in a little bit. Or click on Add New, and then I can go and configure that phone number. Let's say this is our Hawaii sales office that Sean and I desperately need to do some sales training in.
Typically from like February to mid-March, right? So
you can see here, these are the languages that we have operating in the service right now. So we can have it you can have it answering using U.S. English, or if we wanted to, we could have it answering using UK English or Canadian English. We can have the default greeting. We can upload one, or we can create a greeting that's custom. And if we want to create a custom greeting, we can say, "Thank you for calling Contoso in Hawaii." There we go. We need to rub it in a little bit. And so what will happen is when callers call up this number, they're going to hear an automated system use text-to-speech using the English UK language pack to go and play back this phrase. Alternatively, I could use this to also upload that prompt as well. And then I can use the default menu. I could upload one, or I could create a custom one. And by default, it just says to reach your party by name, enter now, followed by the pound sign. And if I wanted to have an operator set up for this, then I can go and I can configure. Let's see if it'll come and find me in the system. Yep. And then if somebody ends up needing to get to an operator, they press 0 at any time, they're going to get routed to me. So that's it. I go and I click save, and now this auto attendant is set up and it's configured and operating in our tenant. So it is literally that quick to get this set up. Now, functionality wise, this is our preview level of functionality. There's going to be more capabilities that we're going to be adding in here.
Excellent. And so that's part of what I want to kind of talk to with as we kind of think about we're going forward preview. Are you going to show them the call queues, or is it very similar to the same?
It actually is really similar. Let me just click on it really quick and you can kind of see what that looks like. I've got one already here set up for another sales team, +61. Any guess on where that is?
+61. 1.
Not the voice guy, but that's okay. Australia.
Well, see, if you give me 4-4, I had it nailed, man. I could have given you the UK. I didn't figure that.
There's one thing there. There's just a couple things here to call out. One is that what we have here of call agents, it says sales team. This is actually a distribution list that we have configured within Office 365, this sales team. And so what happens is when a call comes in, it'll be routed to everybody who has opted into this particular distribution list to be able to get calls.
So wait, so what you're saying is this is completely tied in across the entire Office 365. Sweet.
Exactly. You don't have to go and create something special and unique specifically for call queues. We're going to take advantage of the distribution list, the infrastructure that you already have set up.
So I'm going to ask the question that I guarantee you has already hit Paul 1,000 times.
Okay.
What about server?
What about
Exchange server?
Boy, that's a great question. That is actually a scenario that we'll want to test. I believe right now you'll need to sync your distribution list up to Office 365, and as long as they're available within Office 365, those should work within the service. That's a great question. One last thing that I wanted to touch on here is this test directly from within the tool. You can go and you can test either the call queue or the auto attendant. And one of the great things is all I have to do is I click on that. You'll see this pretty familiar, hey, you want this website to go and open up something within your computer.
Do it.
What it does is it'll actually open up Skype for Business, and it'll set up Skype for Business to be able to go and click to call into that. So I'm not actually going to call. I'm not actually going to call into this because it'll go and it'll mess up our broadcast here. But it's just one of those really nice sets of capabilities that we have from within the tool to be able to not only acquire numbers, configure them really quick with your attendant and your call queue, but then also just directly do testing within this facility.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring it back to us for just a second. So,
Absolutely.
Because I think there's a couple cool. We've got a lot of questions.
I love it.
Paul has actually told me he has over 30 questions that he cannot answer.
Well, so here's what we'll do. So after the broadcast, I'll jump onto the Q&A manager. I'll start doing some questions. I'll start doing some triage. Clearly, we're not going to be able to take.
And then let's drop that in actually into network.office.com.
Oh, that's
because that becomes an unauthenticated space. Also, I'm totally going to give a plug here real quick.
Yeah, please.
We are migrating from Yammer, from the IT Pro community, into the Office 365. So it's network.office.com. There is a Skype for Business tab there. The advantage is it becomes unauthenticated, which means you don't have to go through the rigmarole to try to get there. We can actually provide this information to you. And we will actually, you'll see some posts coming into the Yammer community to actually start to migrate that. We're also going to look to migrate some of the additional content. So keep your eyes peeled for moving over to network.office.com. Because it's actually going to give us a lot more flexibility to do a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a really great setup. It's a really great network. We're going to be active on it just the same way we're active in the Yammer community. So great point, great plug.
Excellent. Hey, I think that you want to talk about release, right?
Well, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about release, and then let's take a couple questions.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all you, man.
Okay, so for the release plan. Preview, we are planning for September, and so you can see we've got some of the capabilities up and running in the tenant right now. We're running this internally within Microsoft in our dog food program. So we're going to be ironing out the kinks pretty aggressively over the next month or so, and then we're going to be turning it over to everybody within Preview. And so to get started in Preview, all you got to do is go out to skypepreview.com. It is there. It is ready and waiting for you to sign up in the preview program. One of the things you'll notice under qualifications is that it actually indicates that you need PSTN calling. I was talking with the preview team earlier. At first, I thought that maybe we weren't going to be ready to take hybrid customers. We're actually going to plan to take hybrid customers when preview starts. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. So they're actually doing a little bit more work between now and September to be able to get hybrid customers operating within the preview as well. You can sign up today. If there's one thing that we learned from the Mac is that our preview programs are incredibly popular. So don't hesitate and don't wait and go and sign up for preview now. Because
It's a queuing system.
That's right.
Right? We got call queuing. This one's actually a preview queuing system.
And right? And you know, we want to take everybody. We want to take as many folks as we possibly can, but there is a human limit to the number of bugs that we can triage within this.
Which really comes down to us planning to GA this. Is there a reason why we're not giving a date?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we want to have this be the highest level of quality. We want to make sure that all the different call flows and all the different scenarios, you can imagine, you know, where you're doing call treatment and you're moving to queues, and you can have queues calling queues, and you can have, you know, attendants, you know, that route to other attendants. And like, there's a lot of complicated call scenarios that can occur here. We want to exercise all of those. And so we are going to hit general availability based on our quality, not based on our calendar.
Oh, wait, you mean we're not going to race to hit a date?
No.
We're actually going to deliver the highest quality product. I'm happy to hear about that. So.
That's absolutely right. And so our plan right now is to have that be up and running by the end of the year. But it is in a lot of ways up to the audience that's listening to this. I know there's a tremendous amount of interest in this capability. Help us exercise these features. Help us exercise these code paths.
Let's get it, and let's make sure that we nail it, right?
Yeah, and I want to see all the hybrid customers too. Like this, I love the fact that we're taking the additional work to make sure that hybrid is really a first party and a first class citizen topology in this, both from a PSTN perspective and from being able to use the organizational auto attendant to be able to route to folks on premises. Just that was one piece that I'm really happy that we were able to really happy to get in. Okay, so I think we've got a couple questions.
We do, but I wanted to just point something out for you.
Please.
21% of our attendees are E5 already.
Wow.
So those that are E1 and E3, that Cloud PBX functionality that's part of E5 and all of this goodness, definitely something to go down the path and really start strongly consider, because you get some great things within E5, even Cloud PBX, PSTN conferencing, some security features, Power BI. But now that we're there, I think we've got a number of questions. Let's see. Oh, one of the big ones here was, what are the key differences in missions in Cloud PBX queues versus on-premises RGS? Yeah,
so you can tell for those of you that may not be aware, the set of capabilities that we have here for on-premises, we bundle under a name called Response Group Services. Response Group Services has been around since Office Communications Server 2007 R2. I was one of the people who named Response Group Services. That is as long as I've been around.
Wow.
I know, it's a little frightening. But that set of capability has grown over 4 releases, you know, from R2 to 2010 to 2013, now into Skype for Business Server 2015. This is our first release into Cloud PBX. And so, yeah, you're absolutely going to see some differences. One of the biggest ones, though, to be aware of is that this isn't a port. So we didn't pick up the response group capability and dump it into Azure and into Office 365 and then just kind of got it and set it up and running. It is entirely newly architected for the cloud.
Similar to what we did, not necessarily for cloud, but similar to what we did to the Mac. We realized that it needed a full refresh based on what business requirements were, not based off of our legacy technology.
That's absolutely right. Okay. So you'll be recreating call queues, you'll be recreating call treatment in Office 365. There's not going to be a facility to kind of port those from on-premises to online. But as you see, the way that you set up and the way that you configure these is actually really straightforward. And I think it's going to be a lot more simple than what we had in the server with RGS. And of course, there was a long tail of functionality and capabilities that was in RGS. Of course, we're going to try to get those into the cloud. But first, we wanted to just make sure that the kind of basic call handling, call treatment, queues and routes, speech recognition on all those different languages, that all those things are working and solid.
Tied to that, and I'm going to take a guess on this one because you just explained that the call queues was based off of DL. Right, not necessarily based off of the functionality. Somebody had asked, will the call queues like auto attendant extend into on-prem? It's because it's based off of Exchange, right? It's going to be able to route to either on-prem or to the cloud.
That's right. So you'll be able to route to users who are homed online or in the cloud. And then the DL piece That's what we have wired up today. You'll also be able to route to individual users if necessary as well. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've got actually a lot of questions, and I figure we're going to take 3 or 4, and then we're going to put Jamie on triage today. And anybody that's been on Yammer will know when he does his commute, because that's when all the Yammer responses happen. But one of the things that a lot of the questions are about on-prem, and I'm going to let you handle those offline, but one of the ones that we've got is if they want to use the org auto attendant, then would it mean that they'd have to move away from Online A?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea here is that the organizational auto attendant running as a part of Cloud PBX will take on the workload that today on-premises customers use Exchange unified messaging for. And so that is absolutely the intention, is that we want to have more and more of the capability operating within Cloud PBX and operating within Office 365 as opposed to operating within Exchange unified messaging.
Awesome. We're gonna take one more question, and then I think we should probably let people get back to their days. But actually, so Scott M, can you provision phone numbers for hunt groups and auto attendant from on-premises PSTN via CCE or hybrid?
Yes, absolutely. That is definitely within the product. I didn't show that here because our demo tenant doesn't have a Cloud Connector edition or have a hybrid topology set up. But yes, that is within the product. That is going to be available when preview starts. That if you are running hybrid, if you are using Cloud PBX and not using PSTN calling, you will definitely be able to take advantage of this. It's just awesome. The way that the numbers show up within the admin console is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, you don't have the ability to go in kind of a wizard, go grab a number from wherever. You get these numbers from your carrier, but once those are configured within the tenant, that they will be available as service numbers, and you will be able to use them for your call queues and for your auto attendants. Definitely.
Excellent. Well, I think with that, one of the things we should say is go to skypepreview.com. Make sure you get your name in early to get this stuff. And once again, thank you for joining us. I'm Sean Wilson.
I'm Jamie Stark. Thank you so much for the interest. Really appreciate all the engagement, and look forward to seeing you on another Skype video broadcast.